were almost getting hit by cars. And it was just so exciting. It's New York.
To this day, lesbians stop me on the street and say, lesbians!
Some other resident was grumbling and you said, hey, we're making movies. It's magic of movies. And they were like, you can take your movie magic and shove it up your ass.
I'm going to start with Jennifer and Heather because I know this film was very much your baby and you two co-wrote it and it started as a play. So how did you two come to meet each other and work together on this material, and what made you decide to turn it into a film?
Heather and I met at this really fun theater retreat in the Catskills for writers, directors, and actors. Everybody was asked to do something they didn't know how to do. So if you were a director, you had to act, and if you were an actor, you had to write something. And so we both ended up writing a sketch that was about a horrible date, and we sort of clocked each other. I was like, she and I are kind of on the same wavelength, and we stayed in touch after that retreat.
We split the salad, but I think, as I recall, you ate a little bit more, including more of the arugula, which is one of the more expensive greens. I didn't have any of the goat cheese, allergic. No desserts, easy enough. That leaves your portion at $42.73 and mine at $18.14. Beautiful. Perfect. You have exact change?
We started doing staged readings of this material for our friends and acting network. Tovah, when you watched what we had, you said, this is two entertainments. It was like the story of these two women who are kind of getting to know each other and thinking, could I do this? And all the bad dates. And it was after that reading that Jen and I regrouped and said, what if all the bad dates is act one? These two women are going crazy in the dating scene, it's not working. And then act two is after they get together. It was kind of, it was a cool show. And right after we finished, Jen's agents were calling saying, HBO is calling and all these people are interested in, developing this. So we were suddenly thrust into Screenwriterville and kind of development.
And then we sort of decided to make it indie after we had gone the studio route and felt like it would never get made. And that's when we reached out to Eden, readings and raising money.
As I often say, it was uncles and orthodontists. There's an expression in Russian that translates to make a candy out of. And I always think of that when I think of this movie. We made something beautiful and enduring. And it's so, it makes me so happy to see all these faces on this screen. It's exciting.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. You know what? I missed my yoga class this morning, and I'm not my usual centered self.
Do you do yoga regularly? Is that something?
Yeah, every day actually. I find it keeps me really strong and energized and usually graceful.
I've heard that. I'm never gonna get a cab. I was just wondering. Okay, I have like 20 minutes.
Charlie, how did you end up involved? Because you had only done like one previous project at that point, right?
Yes, also a love story about two girls. And I remember reading this script and just thinking, they wrote something so beautiful. As you say, I really didn't have a lot of credits to my name at that time. And I was working at a cafe on Melrose where Jen and Heather came to drink coffee and talk about the script. And I just remember chatting them up every time I could and telling them how beautiful their story was and how if they ever needed me for anything, I was available.
And then Lawrence, explain how you came on board, and then you really captured a New York that I feel like kind of doesn't exist anymore in some ways. Like, what was that like shooting indie on location in the city?
Of course, shooting in New York as a kid who grew up in New Jersey and loved film, it was a dream to make something that, spoke to the sort of long history of New York filmmaking. And it was very important for me to make it feel like what New York is, which is one of the most romantic places in the world, and to shoot real and in real locations. Were
there any scenes where it was sort of like guerrilla style, like you weren't really supposed to be there, you were just grabbing what you could?
We should tell that taxi cab story. But the taxi cab,
and with the sound person in the trunk.
The sound person in the trunk.
This is where Helen and Jessica are discussing the lips.
The blending.
You know, I'm trying to hail a cab, and literally we were almost getting hit by cars, and it was just so exciting. It's New York.
The driver was not like someone on your crew. It was just a real cab driver.
New York, the moment in time that was, I feel you'd still have cab drivers back then who are like, I don't know, this is New York. I don't just go with it. You know, it's a fair.
Yes or no, lady? I don't got all day. Come on, I gotta get out of here.
Okay, you know what? Let's just, we'll talk in here. We'll think. I can't think. Wait, no. I was right around there. We'll figure it out. I can't, I will get my,
No, you screened at Toronto right after 9/11, and then you ended up taking out some shots of the World Trade Center. But does it make the film feel more bittersweet, having sort of captured that moment in time in New York right before so many things changed?
Ultimately, I feel like we all decided that it was a comedy and it was coming out in March, and it was just too soon to trigger audiences when we really wanted to uplift audiences. It just felt too soon. Maybe if it had been a year later, we would have made a different decision, but we did the best we could.
Scott, how did you come on board? Because I read that, Jen, you originally were hoping to cast John Hamm in that role.
I remember, if we're going to use the actor jargon, that Scott at that time was offer only for a project like this, meaning a complete unknown everyone, little indie script. And we were like, oh gosh, it's such an important role. Please, please, please read for us. We just want to hear it. And Scott, you very graciously read for us.
I remember doing the scene, the outdoor barbecue scene, whatever that is, the dinner scene, and seeing John in that scene. And I remember saying to Jennifer, hey, why isn't that guy playing this part? I don't really get it. That is, but that was that. I had no idea who he was.
Well, I wanted to ask, Jackie, your character orchestrates this dinner party that Scott's talking about, and you have all of these amazing little sarcastic asides when you find out that Charles is not single. For all of you, what was like shooting that? Was there a lot of ad-libbing in those moments?
There was not a lot of ad-libbing. There might have been some behavior that was ad-lib, but it was important to keep within the confines of the script, and which I think in the end was a very, very good choice.
And it wasn't necessary because the script was so economically and beautifully written.
I do have a little history to draw from, but even if I didn't, you've known Charles here for about an hour, and in that time, you've insulted and dismissed a panoply of men based on factors as reductive as a linguistic misstep, a different view from yours on Going Dutch, a kind reaction to your legendary lateness, and a genuine interest in yoga. You know, I think it was Anais Nin who said, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Generally, I'm not much of a Nin fan, but I do feel that bit sums you up to a T, Stein.
And then Tovah, your character is so lovely in that she starts off as this like very overbearing, meddling, stereotypical mother, but then you get to see the real heart underneath all of that.
It was the overbearing was such a stretch for me. I got very lucky. Jennifer Westfeldt, at one time in her life, who was a great moment in my life, was my assistant. Then Jennifer asked me to come see her play in what was Lipstick, and I went to see the play, and I said, I keep my word. I will play your mother, but you need to give me more material. You need to give me more material.
Wow, I did not know that.
The script was so beautiful, so perfect. Or I actually thought maybe Jennifer and Heather understood me so well that they custom made parts of the characters. It just fit like a glove, and the humor of it fit like a glove. And this incredible porch scene, which got me a nomination with the foreign press and was edited so brilliantly by you all. We shot that in 2 takes. I remember that Charlie said to me, we don't have enough film. It was 2:00 in the morning. We literally shot these things in 2 takes. And who knew that that's the way Clint Eastwood makes films anyway?
Jesse. I think she's a very nice girl.
that scene that you and I did in the kitchen where you're like, what's up with her? What's up with Jessica? And like, she's acting so weird. And I'm like, I don't know why she could be acting weird. That was my very first feature film scene I ever shot. And you made it very easy. So that was a very sweet memory for me, that scene we did together.
I just wish that Jessie would meet somebody. I mean, it's been ages since she's met anybody worthwhile. Is she dating at all?
I think so. You know, now and again.
But no one special?
You know, I just don't know.
Keep me posted, will you? Sometimes Jessie is so secretive with me. Would you do that for me?
You know, I'm sure if it's someone really special, she'll tell you.
And then the other thing is, I came home, and at those days we had, you know, a voicemail on our regular phones, and your agent called and your mother called, and she said, hello, Tovah, this is Barbara Streisand. I just want to say I just watched Kissing Jessica Stein, and I was so moved by the work, maybe because of my son Jason, but I really thank you for doing that picture.
Shut up.
Babs,
that's a big one.
What wasn't Idina Menzel in it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have to find it. There's a picture of Idina. I found this, all the Polaroids from our shoot. Here she goes. Here's Idina, the wedding.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, there it is.
Jennifer and Heather, one of the most iconic scenes in the film is, of course, the first kiss. How many iterations did that scene go through before you arrived at this?
Everything went through a zillion iterations. But Heather, do you remember how we came up with that ending? I can't think of how. It's just...
I remember that the whole first date, let's call it sequence, because it's really more than a scene, was really tricky from a story standpoint, because we had drawn Jessica Stein as this woman who was very uptight and very, very not apt to just kiss another woman on a first date. Why is she even on the date? I mean, it was also outlandish for that character. So we had to really craft the date, both on the page and in the shooting, as this kind of amazing journey that the two women are going on with all these little moments. And at the end, in front of Ricky's with that kiss, I think there had been so much connection that even Jessica couldn't deny. She's vibing with this girl. You know, it's cool, it's good, it's something there. And I think my character, Helen, at that point was like, let's just cut the bullshit. We got to do this.
Maybe underneath all the neurosis, you have a profound capacity for happiness that you're not allowed to.
You think I could be profoundly happy?
How do you know? How do you know? You can't possibly know who you are or how you'll respond to something until you try it.
Well, I happen to disagree. I happen to think if you know yourself well, you can gauge how you're going to react to something. And I can pretty much assure you that I will never be made happy by chanting for spiritual enlightenment.
Or maybe you would. You can't know.
Trust me, I know.
You know.
Yeah, I know.
You know how you'll react to everything.
Pretty much, yes.
I guess you're right. You seem to know yourself pretty well.
And then after that, there's that kissing montage as Jessica gets gradually more comfortable being physically intimate with Helen. How did you all conceive of that? And like, how many different setups or versions of levels of intensity did you go through before arriving at this final product?
At that point, I felt and feel like Jennifer and I were like an old married couple. We had been developing this script for so long. We had done so many workshops. We had done that particular scene of the montage of like, should I touch you? And is it tongue? And all that type of stuff. That was really all the way back at the play, as I recall.
And Charlie, I have to say, I really remember you were thinking much bigger than what was on the page, from music and atmosphere and blocking and everything. Just it's quite amazing.
Watch a devilish delight mixed with such bright mendacity. Each time those crazy eyes gaze on
That was really good. I thought that was, best one ever. Me too, definitely.
crazy eyes. You're nothing more than
So I figured if we keep going like this, We'll get there in like 2 weeks or so.
Scott, I read you got arrested while you were filming this. Like what?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, I got arrested. We were staying in some motel, and I walked into a deli across a bridge. I looked like the guy that was robbing delis in Connecticut, and so I was taken back. I was put in the cop car. I was taken back into my motel room, and I mean, I was trying to call Eden, and yeah. It was crazy. They didn't believe who I was. They didn't believe what I was doing. Yeah, right. You're an actor. You're doing a movie. Yeah, sure. And it just, yeah. And until Eden came and explained everything, they thought I was the guy.
Jackie, my two favorite scenes of yours are where you first figure out what's going on with Helen and Jessica in your apartment, and like Jessica could barely verbalize what's happening.
Oh, I love that scene.
What memories do you have of that scene? Because it's like the neurotic energy just like pulses from the screen in that moment.
I haven't had a part like that before that or since. I remember in a career of always being told to small, and Charlie let me go, huge, crazy like I would, but still keep it real. And I'm so grateful to him for that. To this day, lesbians stop me on the street and say, lesbians! Become this iconic moment. But it was just, I remember running around this Upper West Side apartment shrieking, and it was just so cool.
Oh, I remember that day, Jackie. It was a beautiful day. I remember our conversations behind the scenes and that agreement we made to let it be free.
Another borrowed apartment, my dear friend Haley's old studio apartment.
It was so small, that apartment.
Wasn't that the building, Eden, where some other resident was grumbling and you said, we're making movies, it's magic of movies, and they were like, you can take your movie magic and shove it up.
Do you all have a favorite? The script is so great. Do you all have a favorite piece of dialogue, whether it's one of your lines or someone else's?
I must confess to loving the sexy ugly piece, because I still feel it holds. I still think about sexy ugly. I'm still into sexy ugly, I gotta say for the record.
Harvey Keitel. Very sexy ugly.
What about Marination?
The
Marinated.
Which is in the culture now, and I hear it in the language, and I think that's our script.
Every time I use that word, I think about the movie. I'm like, damn, I can't get anything on my own.
Yeah.
Don't decide right now. Just let it marinate for a while.
Okay, I will let it marinate.
Helen is like, asking Jessica if she has told her therapist about it, and Jessica says, I could never tell my therapist. Why not? Because it's private. It's just, it's a ridiculous notion.
What does your therapist say about all this?
Oh, I could never tell my therapist.
Why not?
Because it's private.
There's things that this script said that like I've never seen before or since, and just so things that like they're talking about sex and how penetration's really uncomfortable and the other stuff is better, and I'm like, no one says that. It just was so relatable as a straight woman who at the time was still interested in sex.
Well, it's basically the same as with a man, except minus one thing,
Right. Well, yes, right.
Right, and let's face it, it's the other stuff that works for women anyway, right?
Yes, well, that is true.
Jen and Heather, why did you decide to not have Helen and Jessica end up together? Was that something you knew from the beginning?
For me, I remember that it was important for us to show two different stories here. One where, Helen is like, this is who I am. This is my identity. It's not a choice for me. It's not fluidity. It's who I am. And the scene where Jessica's saying like, but we're best friends. This is the best relationship I've ever had, essentially like, isn't that enough? I love you so much. And it wasn't enough for Helen because she really needed that sexual certainty and that passion. I want someone to rip my clothes off or whatever. And I don't know. I think the difference in their experience of it was an important distinction.
It was the essence of the story that one woman was exploring because she wanted to. She wanted to be with this person.
This is a true story. Many queer people, many gay people come out with their more straight best friends, you know, in sexual relationships. And you know, more and more now, like, you know, after the 20 years have passed, you know, you're seeing that that fluidity in action. And I just think it's so beautiful that we created a really like a kind of a flagship narrative that, you know, has, from which, you know, a time period from which so many stories have come now.
So with my best, my very best, I set you
She's not here
free.
yet. She ran into Josh Myers. Just now, that's why she's late. I know, I'll get the whole story. I think I got oh my god! Hi! Oh, just got here, I gotta go. Okay, I will, bye. Lori sends her love. Thank you. So, what did he say?
Well, first I got really nervous. And
I know, right?
That you and I could never be. So with my best.
That is all the time we have for today, but this was so special bringing you all together. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your memories with us. We really appreciate it.